Welcome back. So you sent us this interesting set of materials, and we're ready to dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely. We're digging into the documents you provided about support systems for strata councils in BC.
Right. Specifically, these are excerpts about FirstService Residential and their approach.
Mm.
So I guess our mission here is to really unpack what this source is saying. What are the key claims, the main nuggets of info?
Exactly. We want to understand the challenges strata councils apparently face, according to the source, and how the support system described aims to help them out.
Pulling out the really essential bits about how they position themselves, right,
Right.
as a partner for these community leaders.
Yeah, how they try to ease that burden.
Okay, so let's unpack it. The document, it kicks off by saying that being on a strata council is, well, they call it a difficult position.
It puts you right in the hot seat, making big decisions that affect, everyone in the building or complex.
And they frame it as complex right away. It's not just paperwork. It's governing a whole mini community. That's a
Yeah.
lot of responsibility,
Definitely. Which leads straight into their proposed solution.
which is,
Partnering up. Getting an experienced strata management company involved, they say that's the way to simplify the whole thing.
okay, so the core argument is get the right partner, make the difficult position manageable.
Right. But then the question becomes, how do they claim they are that right partner? And the material sort of breaks down their approach into different layers.
Okay. And one of the first things, it seems, is this emphasis on being homegrown.
Yeah, they talk about understanding local nuances. They even, I think, mention the Canadian spelling of neighborhood somewhere.
Maybe. But the core point is that local understanding.
Exactly. The document says their roots are deeply Canadian, owned by a proudly Canadian-founded company. So establishing that local connection right off the bat.
So how does that local claim translate into actual support? The source talks about how they support their own managers.
Yeah, this was interesting. It describes a kind of internal structure, a hierarchy that's specifically local,
Like,
regional directors, VPs, a president, plus admin and accounting teams, all based right there in the greater Vancouver area.
right?
And the idea presented is that this local structure provides strategic guidance and handles the background stuff, the admin load, for their managers.
So that internal support is meant to free up the managers so they can focus better on the councils.
That seems to be the argument, yeah. Letting them concentrate on the strata council's needs.
Got it. And then there's this other team mentioned, RSS Resident Support Services.
Right, the RSS team. The document says they work behind the scenes.
Okay, doing what exactly behind the scenes?
Handling the everyday questions, the common inquiries about day-to-day strata living.
Wow.
And the key point they make is that this takes a really time-consuming task off the strata manager's shoulders.
So the RSS team is like a first line of defense for routine stuff.
Kind of, yeah. It lets the manager dedicate more time to the bigger picture, the essential council-led tasks and initiatives, as the source puts it.
Makes sense. Efficiency.
Then, moving beyond their internal setup, the document talks about industry involvement.
Right. Their associates being active in the broader strata world, attending events, holding board positions. They mention CCI Vancouver specifically.
Yeah, and what's the significance of that, according to the source?
Well, they present it as a way to get deeper industry knowledge, spot emerging trends.
And then use that knowledge to help the councils.
Exactly. Help with community improvements that, keep property values up and make the place desirable, connecting the local community to wider industry insights.
And speaking of needing insights, legislation in BC, that's a big one for Stratus, isn't it? Things change fast.
Oh, absolutely. A huge challenge for volunteers.
Yeah.
And the document claims they stay on top of all legislative changes.
Right, and crucially, they say they communicate those changes clearly to the councils.
Not just telling them, but helping them navigate it all, helping them actually achieve compliance.
That's framed as a major value add, taking away a big potential headache, legally and administratively.
Definitely.
Okay, another angle they highlight is education, not just for their managers, but for the council members themselves.
Right. They say a thriving strata needs a strong, knowledgeable council, one that feels empowered.
So how do they help with that empowerment?
Well, the source says they go beyond standard management guidance by hosting regular webinars.
On what kind of topics?
Pretty practical stuff listed.
Yeah.
Council 101, budget planning seems key. Insurance market trends always a hot topic. And even planning for EV charging.
So giving them concrete knowledge and skills.
Yeah, it's framed as adding additional tools to the tool belts of these volunteers, building their confidence and ability to do the job.
The source also mentions community giving, sort of tying it back to being Canadian, being helpful.
Their social purpose initiative. What specific examples did they give?
Two main ones stood out. An annual campaign for Canuck Place Children's Hospice, they mentioned, raising over $1 million, which is significant, and a partnership with BCIT for scholarships.
So positioning themselves as part of the wider community fabric.
Yeah, contributing back.
Yeah.
That genuinely helpful idea again.
Okay, let's loop back to that local idea, the neighbors concept. There was a quote in there from their president, Chris Churchill.
Right. He made the point that life isn't the same everywhere in BC. You know, downtown Vancouver versus, say, Kelowna, different pace, different expectations.
And the takeaway from that.
That management solutions can't be one size fits all. They need to be tailored to suit them, meaning the specific community.
And they really drive that home, saying things like, we don't just serve these towns, we live in them too.
Yeah, painting that picture of bumping into people at the local ice rink or the farmer's market.
Reinforcing that we are your neighbors idea, grounding the professional service in a personal connection.
Mm-hmm.
So when you boil it all down, what's the ultimate promise here?
Well, the theme woven through everything seems to be life simplified.
Right. By taking care of the day-to-day operations, the goal, they state, is just to make Strata living, and especially serving on council, less complicated.
Allowing people to actually, enjoy their homes and communities.
So for you listening, if you're in a Strata in BC, maybe on council, maybe thinking about it, or even if you're just curious about how these volunteer roles get supported.
Yeah, understanding this kind of model, how a company positions its support, it's pretty insightful.
It really shows how complex that council role is seen to be, and the structures being offered to, well, manage that complexity.
Layered support, local focus, education. It's a whole package aimed at easing that difficult position.
Which leaves us with something to think about, maybe. Given everything this document says about professional support, simplifying things for volunteer councils, what does that imply for the future of community governance? When these expert partners become so central.
Or maybe how much does that emphasis on being neighbors and tailoring services actually change the lived experience in a community compared to a more detached management style? Does it really feel different on the ground?
Interesting questions to ponder. Thank you for listening to the Global Heroes podcast. Please remember to follow us on social media, and you can also stream our show, It's a Beautiful World, over on Prime Video.